Hi guys, welcome back to We Are Tottenham TV. Tottenham Hotspur have just beaten Crystal Palace 3-1 at home. We were 1-0 down after we conceded in around, I don't know, the 60th minute, something like that.
Yep.
Didn't score till the 70th minute, but a bit of a feel-good factor has now come back to Spurs after that last 20 minutes. Really big improvement. Marlon is with me. What is your kind of biggest takeaway from that game that we can move forward going into the Villa game with?
Positive in that last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Confidence. Look, there's so much to not worry about yet. I think when Palace scored, I can see why we're all thinking, oh my God, here we go again. But we didn't need to, because as with Spurs have done all season, and that's one thing that we haven't changed, we will score, we'll try and get back in the game. And no matter how we do it, we'll move on to the next step. For me right now, it's just a case of great win. We just need to take this on in the next couple of games because, let's be honest, this run that we're going to now be on, apart from Villa, we've got quite favourable fixtures.
Yeah.
And we need to get as many points as possible.
Said that before.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. We've got some favourable fixtures, and that Wolves is just a block. And it's going to be a very, very difficult April, but we need the team to gel, get used to each other, because that April is going to need them being...
Yeah, I want to come up with a little positive there that I think could stand us in really good stead going forward, which is that Timo Werner got his first goal for the club.
Yep.
And actually in that second half, he started looking a lot more direct with the ball in terms of getting to the byline and getting some cutbacks in. And then the second thing, Brennan Johnson was pretty much solely responsible for that equalising goal. Really worked hard, showed desire, won a 50-50, was brave. And he will gain a lot of confidence from that in a time where people have been questioning him.
No, and that's the strangest thing. Like, I looked at, and when he won the ball back, one off Anderson, you're kind of then looking, what can he do next?
Yeah.
But it's the way he wins it back, dribbles past him. I think Lerma. It was Lerma, and then comes back. He goes past him as well.
Yeah.
And he just lays it on a sixpence for Werner. Werner couldn't miss. Yes, Werner could have missed because it's Werner, but he didn't miss, and it's changed the whole game. And actually, Johnson's confidence then grew to the other players.
Yeah.
Which is quite strange to say considering how he's been. But then the players started to believe, and then, you know, that Maddison starts to play as a number 10 and not a number 6,
yeah.
Which you said quite early on. When after the 1-0, he kept dropping. He was too deep. And we need him. And then the second goal goes in, and it just turns everything on its head.
I think there were some signs during that game, a kind of 10 or 15 minute period in the first half, and then certainly in that kind of last 20 minutes of us getting somewhere near back to that kind of fluency that we haven't shown for a long time. And I think a lot of that is to do with that combination in midfield. Bentancur, Maddison, Sarr when he came on as well, looked good in that sense. And then you were saying quite early on, we need a bit more pace in the wings. We need to be better out wide. And actually, it was down the wings that really changed things.
I think, because, again, and it's only because I did my research on Palace last week, and I saw where Burnley caused them the most trouble. And Kulu's very predictable. And I could see that in the first half. And what like you said, in the first half, Werner kept cutting back. And he wasn't being direct.
Yeah.
And as soon as he went direct, Palace were like, what are you doing? This is not what we planned for. All right? And obviously we saw that one go across goal. We both said at the same time, if Johnson was there, he's on the end of that. Kulu's not.
Yeah.
So you could see that that's what the game kind of needed, right? And I think hopefully that's what Ange saw, and that's why he did bring on Johnson. But again, he left Kulu on the pitch because he obviously loves Kulu and the energy he brings. But yeah, at the same time, it just needed that pace, because I don't think Tyrick Mitchell and Muniz are very good with pacey wingers.
Right.
And I think that was more the issue for Crystal Palace. It was their weakness, and hopefully he saw that, and that's why he brought on Johnson.
And obviously we end with, you know, a good feeling, 3 points, very important win. But we do have to talk about the kind of first 70 minutes.
And
the way I'm going to choose to talk about it is less about us playing badly and more about the realities of what we're going to face up to against any team we play other than the top 6, realistically, when they come to our place. Which is that there is a very tried and tested system that can be used to basically nullify us. The first half, we only had 2 shots on goal in the first half. We did improve second half because of some of those things that Marlon was just talking about. But the reality is, for the rest of this season, and until we buy some players, I think, who have a little bit of something different about them. And we can use Eza as the example, because he was obviously still a bit injured, but he showed one bit of class, beat a couple of men and won a free kick that they ended up scoring from. We don't have a player at the moment who is able to run at players like that through the centre.
No,
so
you're correct.
I think just talking about for the rest of this season, we are going to have to be patient at times, and I'm not patient. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not the most patient person. But the reality is, we're going to have to find ways as a team to. And actually, one thing I would like to say is, that's where actually, if we could just score from set pieces a bit more, maybe we could get an early goal from a set piece and draw the other team out. But
I totally agree with you on the set pieces thing. I think the thing for me, I think I'm in a different place to other Spurs fans now. After the Manchester City game, for me, the season was over.
Right.
And I kind of went to myself, look, we're not quite where we wanted to be, but my expectation was at the beginning of the season 7th or 8th. Actually, Ange is out doing that already. So for me right now, I've said I'm giving him the season. I know what he's got at his disposal, right? It's just down to him to get this squad and mould them in to what he wants to do, right? And it's then down to the club in the summer to give him, like you said, give him the players that we need. And that is a type player. If we can get one, it will be brilliant for next season.
Yeah.
But at the present moment, I'm not getting frustrated. Like for me, I watched Wolves. I wasn't frustrated. I was unhappy, but I'm not frustrated. I think I've gone after that Man City game. Like I said, I've completely changed my mindset for the rest of the season. All right, and because of that, that's why I was a bit more confident about today. There's certain games like Villa next week. I'm not expecting anything. For me, I'm not expecting. I know a lot of Spurs fans will after this. I'm not expecting anything because Villa are just a lot. They're further in their journey than we are at the moment.
Totally agree with that.
Right. So if we lose, we lose. But as long as there's a performance. And that's the biggest worry right now, where we're winning these games and there's the performances for long periods of the game is not great.
One thing that I can guarantee is against Villa, we will make chances.
We will make chances.
And they will make chances as well. Can we be more clinical than we were against them at home, I think will be the key thing. I think we've got to talk about Emerson Royal because obviously he was the big kind of talking point as to in the week fans being like, can we put Romero on the right and bring Dragusin in? Actually, I thought Royal had a good game today. And obviously we know his limitations, but he always works hard and he was making those runs and he certainly played better today than he did against Wolves.
No, totally agree. Again, going forward, he's not going to be great. But we have to remember he is a second choice right back.
Yep.
He's not our first choice, right? But I thought defensively today, he dealt with everything in the air. I think he lost 2 headers out to Eze, but then Romero cleaned up afterwards, so it was all great that. Anything that Tyrick Mitchell tried to bring to him, apart from that one bit in the first half, he dealt with. I actually thought he had a better game than Destiny. If I'm being more, if I'm looking at it as a whole, right? And yes, you're right. He was making those runs. Yes, he's not good in those positions, but he's still gonna try and give you what you need and still try and play Ange ball.
Yeah, for me, isn't he the epitome? I think Emerson Royal is the epitome of what Ange said earlier in the season, where he said the difference between the very best players and great players or good players is actually much smaller than the difference of having a bad apple in the changing room. And I think that is why maybe in the long term, Emerson Royal might end up staying at the club because Ange will look at performances like this where he's trying his best, he's working hard and he gives 110% rather than maybe bringing in a more offensively talented right back who might kick up a fuss if he's not playing any games.
And that's the thing. There's certain positions where you don't need to rock the cart, and left back, right back is always going to be those positions. You need to have your first choice and then you need to have a backup, a good enough backup. For me, Ben Davies is not a good enough left back for the system, but he's a good enough centre back replacement when he's needed, right? And he will do a job. But that's probably, I'd rather us go and upgrade the left back as a thing in the summer. So we don't get a Destiny where Destiny's out and Davis is better as a centre back. And we get caught in that situation again. But for me right now, Emerson Royal, that's what everyone's got to remember. He's not first choice. Porro is.
Yeah, totally.
Porro's the first choice.
Totally, and it'll be good to have Porro back next week. I want to talk a little bit about James Maddison before we go. I thought there was little signs of him getting back to some good form. Definitely still got his confidence, trying to pick up the ball all the time. And obviously we've mentioned already, sometimes it feels like maybe he's a bit too deep. But little signs there for me that he is kind of slowly getting back towards where he was in that first 10 games. It's going to take a bit more time, but I think he'll revel in a game like next week where he'll have a lot more space.
Yeah, for me, I think for James Maddison, it was a bit of a kick in the teeth because before he got injured, he was in a team that's flying high with confidence. He's come back to a team that was actually confidence was quite kind of on the floor. So for him, he's not coming back. He's not. So it's more harder for him to come into these games because obviously for him, he's trying to get back to his best, but the team's not nowhere near the level where he was when he left it. So for him, he's had to kind of adjust and get back. And you can see it, that goal for Romero, that's where he needs to be.
That ball, yeah.
That ball is that's why we want him. We want him to unlock it in moments like that, right? He sees it, puts the ball in, on the sixpence for Romero.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, that was. If you haven't seen it yet, check out Match of the Day tonight or wherever you watch your highlights, because he plays a beautiful off his laces volleyed ball to the back stick, and Romero gets up early and glances it into the bottom left-hand corner. I want to talk a bit about Mickey van der Ven, because I just think, and I mentioned it earlier in the watch along, I'm going to say it again. He's the first player we've had since Moussa Dembele where whenever he's in a one-on-one or a 50-50, I have no fear whatsoever. And if we paid £40 million for him, I dread to think what his value is, because he is an unbelievable Rolls Royce of a centre-back.
The worst thing is, I remember when we were linked with him in the summer. So me and Ash, I remember we did a whole thing on our defenders, and Ash asked me at the end, out of the two of the Tapsoba and Van der Ven, who would you go for if I had to pick one? And I went, there's something about Van der Ven that reminds me too much of a Vertonghen, a quick Vertonghen.
Yeah.
And I love Vertonghen as a player. I loved him as a defender. And I'm glad I said that at the time. I've got video evidence, because all he's done is prove exactly what I thought he might be. But I'm gonna sit here and say I didn't think he'd be this good.
Yeah, I know.
That's the worrying thing. I thought he'd take some time, but when I heard that he was linked with Liverpool and Klopp wanted him, I thought, okay, really? It's not the. But then now I can see why.
Yeah.
He would have been. Do you know what? He probably in about a couple of years could be a perfect replacement for someone like Van Dijk in that Dutch team.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable player. So the goals were scored by Werner, Romero and Son. Just before we go, Marlon, I'm going to ask you for your man of the match and then your prediction for next week's game at Villa Park.
Man of the match, I'm going to give to Johnson. Just
good.
because
the
reason why I'm going to give it to him is because like you said, that first 60 minutes was just not great to watch.
Yeah.
The best player in that first 60 minutes is probably Emerson Royale, but he didn't do enough in other areas for me to give it to him. But Johnson's the difference today, and half an hour, like we've done in other games, it's taken 20 minutes, 10 minutes here where we've completely won the game. So I'm going to have to give it to Johnson.
Okay, and then your prediction for Villa Park. It's the early. Bear in mind, it's the early game Sunday, and Villa go to Ajax on Thursday night. So it's the first time this season where we have benefited from someone else playing an extra game. Could that be the difference? I wonder.
I'm going to predict 3-2 to Villa.
Okay.
I think we might go 2-0 up, and I think we might give it away in the last.
I'm going to go 3-2 Spurs. 3-2 Spurs. Man of the match, I'm going to give. Do you know what? I'm going to give it to Van der Ven, because I know a lot of people say, oh, but they didn't make many chances. But I feel like that formation, the way we play it, is just totally it's vital that Van der Ven is in there, because there are so many times where he's left one-on-one, and I just thought he played beautifully today. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. There will be a post-match live call-in show in about 10-15 minutes time, so check that out. Also, go to what's the give you a plug.
So Spurs Kings TV, it's in the description. Like I said, if you keep subscribing, Spurs will keep winning games.
Damn right. Press the subscribe button on that, and on my at @BarnabySlater_ as well, for daily Tottenham content that we can enjoy this week, because we've just won. And most importantly, big 3 points. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you